Welcome to today's episode of Clear Tai Chi podcast, and I'm Richard Clear, your host, and you probably know that already. And then with me sitting here is Matt. He's the regional organizer for Maryville, just outside of Knoxville, Tennessee area.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
And we've got with us Art Don. Actually, before we say Art, we have a new regional organizer, and that's Sheila Bell, and we want to say welcome to Sheila, and she's in Costa Rica. And are they split up into divisions, or is it pretty much the whole country's like one little location? I'll let you speak to that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So Costa Rica has 7 different provinces, but the entire country has about less than 5 million people. And it's about the size of West Virginia, so you can take it as like a small state. I actually live in the northern Pacific region, which is called Guanacaste, but that's...
Would that be almost the size of Florida or not quite?
Oh, no.
Half the size of Florida?
Much smaller.
Much smaller. So like South Florida?
Like West Virginia. That's the best.
I don't know anything about West Virginia, unfortunately.
It's tiny.
Okay. Yeah, cool. All right. So maybe East Tennessee, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it could be. About East Tennessee.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Art Don, and he's in the Virginia?
Maryland.
Maryland, outside of Washington, D.C. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
The Greg Nomeyer in Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti, Michigan. Is that right?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Hey, guys.
If I say it enough times, eventually somewhere in the head it kind of sticks. The Hairy Leg in Verona, New Jersey, outside of New York City.
Hello. All right.
Jim Kelly in Boca Raton, Florida.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Chris Walsh in Maine. I'm going to let you tell them what parts.
Yep, I'm in Hollowell, Maine, just outside of Augusta.
Although outside of Augusta. And then Daniel Stringer in Paisley, and what are the other parts there?
Well, yeah, we're in Paisley, but DeLand is the closest next town over.
DeLand and that area in Florida, and that's like about an hour away from Orlando. So, welcome. All right. Today we're going to go into essential. Well, first we want to welcome Sheila, like I said, and then for the next thing, essentials of daily Tai Chi practice for health. But first, a word from our sponsor. And so for what we're going to talk about today, if you wanted to have more of a hookup on that, you're going to want to get the essential keys to internal power. That is internalpowerkeys.com, and our 24/7 Qigong, clear 24/7 Qigong. If you don't have that, then you'll find that very useful as well for the kind of thing I'm going to talk about, because you're going to want to be doing this to the point where you're doing it towards 24/7. For what we're getting ready to get into. All right. So first of all, Jim in Boca Raton, he's a sheriff. You're a sheriff, right?
Sheriff's deputy, yeah.
Deputy, and because of his job and the contact with the public like that, of course, he's got coronavirus, and so we've worked with him through the medium of Zoom and that kind of thing on a long distance for some things for his health and help him to get through this. And of course, he's doing a lot of work on his own. And so we're going to talk about some of what you have to do with that. And this does work for other kinds of health problems and issues as well. And it's something that ideally, if you're really serious in the Tai Chi, you're kind of doing a whole bunch of the kind of things we're going to be talking about here on a very regular, daily, all day, off and on kind of thing, more on than off, kind of a basis. And so we're going to talk about what those things are and how and what and whys and those kind of things. And so you must make it essential to work your stuff. right? And so Matt had the coronavirus here. He's been over for, I don't know, 6 weeks or so. Coming up on well, about 6 weeks. And I want to let him talk to you about what he had to do in order not to get the pneumonia, in order from the corona, and also just to be able to come through it okay, like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know.
You should go over this way a little bit.
Yeah,
Sure. You're over there. Take this now.
Well, you're the star, you know, but I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily, you know, I can't swear that like this was the thing that got me through it or anything like that. But I did what I believed, you know, what what we had kind of discussed beforehand in this group, in this forum, as being one of the better things that was more likely to help with the coronavirus, which was the embryonic breathing, the whole body embryonic breathing, and we had talked about that like the week before I became symptomatic, and so I started doing that pretty much right away, and I got it to the point where it was very routine, where if I wasn't doing anything else, I was focused on that. I was really paying attention to that and making sure that I was doing that. Like there was some part of my mind that was occupied in the, like, are you still whole body breathing? You better still be whole body breathing. And so what I found was that even though I had respiratory symptoms of it very early, whereas I know others, the respiratory stuff came later. Mine came much earlier, but it stayed. It got to a certain level quickly, but then I was able to keep it there, and because of the pulse oximeter that I had, I could tell that my oxygen levels were good and were staying good. They only dropped down below 95 for one day, but then when my baseline, but I would check it first at kind of in the morning, or you know, whenever I was kind of starting my routine, and then I would get a baseline, and then I would start doing the embryonic breathing and see how it came up, and then I would continue from there. And so even on the day when I checked my my O2, like before I kind of began the session, and it was at a 93, when I started the embryonic breathing, it came up to 98. And then even when I sort of gave it a little bit of a rest, where I wasn't not embryonic breathing, but I wasn't so focused on embryonic breathing, and I kind of checked in later, it was still like 96. It was still above 95. It never got down below that again for the rest of that day. And that was the only day where my O2 got below 95 at all during the whole time. And so I never had a CPAP or anything like that. But I never really needed one. I had the embryonic breathing, and I was doing that and really focused on getting that good movement all the way through, and making sure that I was regularly coughing, which, you know, anybody who talks to me at all during that time knows I was regularly coughing. And I still actually have a little bit of a lingering cough from it that I'm gonna have to get checked out probably. But
everything I've seen in the media on this says that when you have the lung thing, it lasts for like that. A lot of people, they're saying, will go through the rest of their lives with a reduced capacity.
That's super encouraging.
Sorry, I'm saying that's what the media is saying. I think that with what we do, I don't think you're going through it for the rest of your life. But obviously, if it's affecting people to that degree, it now means you've got it. You know, it's going to take some time and a lot of work to get it back. Jim, when you were talking to me the other day, I didn't know what it was you were saying to me. I'll bet embryonic was what you were trying to say. So I think embryonic, you know, embryonic. And so that's why I didn't know what you were saying, because it was a different word. But anyways, I would have maybe figured that out from what you were telling me, but I don't normally think of it as embryonic breathing. I normally think of it as whole body breathing. And so as soon as if you came up and you were really said embryonic, I'd be like, okay, I know what you're getting at. If you said to me something else where it was close to embryonic, I might be like, I don't know what you're talking about, and I wouldn't guess it. But if you say whole body breathing, I'm gonna know what you're talking about right now. So just for a note for anybody that's going to be asking me about any of this, ask me about whole body breathing. I'll know what you're. I'll know what you're asking.
Okay.
All right. Good.
Yeah. Well, so I mean that's basically it. But the point is that I really was trying to make sure that I was doing, like, first of all, I saw the results of it. Like, it wasn't just guessing or shooting in the dark. I had the pulse oximeter. I could see it was making a difference. And so, you know, from there on, it was just monitoring, like, how much of a difference and making sure that I was good. But I had the proof that it was working. And so once I had that and I knew, like, yes, this is the thing that I need to be doing, I was just trying to make that my normal. And so
All the time,
yeah. And so when I wasn't doing anything else, I was really attentive to it. And then when I was doing other things, I mostly wasn't paying attention to it, but I was still doing it because I had trained in the habit, you know, so by paying so much diligent attention to that process. And so then it just, you know, it becomes like you said, something that you're doing 24/7. You know, at some point you sort of wake up doing it. And you're just kind of doing it all the time, and it's weird when you're not.
He did tell me that at some point, I don't remember if it was while you were doing it or after you came, after you know you were well and coming back, that he tried out other kinds of breathing methods, looking at the. So go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm getting that.
Well, yeah. Well, so I did. I used other breathing methods that we have. And just saw what it did to O2 levels and pulse rate, because those were the two things that we monitored by the device. And so it was just interesting how the different breathing techniques that we use can really be like rapidly used to adjust those factors, and what's happening. And one of the things that I thought was particularly interesting for those who have the hen and ha, I was able to use that in a way where what happened at first when I did it was it sucked the O2 out of me. It like depleted my oxygen levels. And then I realized, well, yeah, because I'm kind of focused on the ha, but if I focus on the hen, what happens? And then I was able to bring them back up. And so you can actually use the hen and ha to go both ways and tune it to that, like, that point where you kind of need it for, you know, for combat, and not being so hyper oxygenated that you're lightheaded, but not being, you know, dizzy from lack of oxygen. But you have to be able to modulate the hen and the ha and balance them to do it. And so I thought that was interesting.
And what he said was at the time, or after I saw him, was that the whole body breathing was the one that had the best overall result, where he got the most oxygen and the better heart rate and all that stuff compared to everything else he tried. That's the one that really had the better result across the board.
Yeah.
So he was able to test all that out for real while it was going on.
There were other
Jen,
things.
you're on mute if you were talking to us. You're still on mute.
Yeah.
There you go.
I just wanted to say too that that was part of the thing that I tried to explain with the hen-ha breathing. The vibration I found was really let me know that the parts of my lungs that weren't working, or, you know, so that I think that did work hand in hand a little bit with some of the deeper cycle breathing, was the vibration aspect of it.
Cool. Yeah. Got it. Cool.
Yeah, what I will say is there were other breathing methods that got the O2 up okay, but they also tended to bring the heart rate up a little bit. And so the embryonic breathing was the nice, better, sort of more tranquil, healthy, healing, you know, getting better kind of high oxygen but low heart rate one.
And I have used this to help folks who have asthma and with really great results for the folks that have had that, where I've had people where they really got a lot of difference. And also people who've had physical aches and pains, that they can whole body breathe fully and thoroughly and soft like that, the very calm, soft version that the embryonic breathing is doing, that's really helped with physical aches and pains in general from being sick and this kind of thing. So good. I've got here, it's great for you in daily life for physical and mental health and handling, fighting off illness. And it's extra important now during this time of coronavirus and COVID-19 and all that. All right, so one of the first things, whenever you're in a position to do it, like when you're sitting up or when you're standing, is to do Zhong Ding, central alignment with excellent structure. And you want that so that you're properly connected and aligned without any breaks or gaps. And breaks and gaps are most commonly the result of either overextending, right, reaching too far in any whatever way. And this overextension can be mental as well as physical. And just overreaching where you end up doing something that makes it unconnected. And you wouldn't think it was unconnected. Well, you can feel the connection to the reach, but then there are gaps, breaks, structural issues for different kinds of reasons that come into play. And so your goal is to stay very centered and connected, even though you're still being very soft. And I've got here, breaks and gaps are also commonly because of not testing the posture against some stresses. And stresses could be lifting or pushing, resistance or weight. And it doesn't have to be a lot of weight, but it needs to be enough weight that if there's a break, you're not moving the thing or pulling the thing. And that way you get some internal and immediate physical feedback, and to see that you really are connected and aligned and together so that you're able to exert maximum power with minimum effort. The no tensions, and that's one of the more important aspects of it. And the tensions can be due to the physical misalignment of any kind through you. It can be due to poor or shallow breathing will cause tension, and it'll introduce it into your musculature and into your system. And mental tension can also then translate directly into physical tension. And so you're trying to use good zhongbing and really good central alignment and some relaxation, which I'll talk more about here in a minute, to affect that. And with the sung, which is that relaxation, it's relaxation with structure at the same time. And I tend to think of it like an ice cream cone. You know, if I'm holding an ice cream cone and the ice cream's melting on the top and it's equally pouring down through, there's a structure there that makes the ice cream cone shape, but yet there's the melting of the ice cream coming down equally on all sides. And even when for what you're feeling as a person doing this is even inside everywhere. And so you feel this like pouring downward, right? And structure, the melting and pouring downwards equally everywhere. And how to use your breath to get it started, which is you breathe in and fill up. Make sure you keep your structure, fill up, fill up, fill up, and then release and breathe and let it all pour downward and breathe out. Soft. Like that. And you want it to go down into the ground so that you're actually rooting, which we'll be talking about. All right. And I've got here now, a word from our sponsor. If you want to know more about these things and how they're done and have physical examples and all that, Essential Keys to Internal Power has this material and other things on it. And you're going to want to get that at internalpowerkeys.com. And if you want to know more about, well, how do I maintain that throughout the day, ongoing, longer term, that's going to be more the 24/7. All right, whole body breathing, which we've been talking about. It's an oxygen exchange into and out of every part of your body. And when you first are working with somebody or somebody's new to this, and you're, wait a minute, you're telling me to breathe in and out with every body part, my hand, my legs, my feet, but my lungs are here. You know, so how does that go from being just in my chest to how am I supposed to breathe all over my body? And the answer to this is that every cell in your body has to have oxygen in and exchange in and out, and it can't go more than about 5 minutes without it, or that part dies. Well, the cells in my hands are alive, the cells in my feet are alive, and the oxygen is being brought initially into the lungs, and then it goes into the bloodstream and it circulates through so that it can, and it does it within that quickly on its own. You're not trying to do anything fast to get it to happen. It's just naturally getting everywhere like that as long as your circulation system is working. And it goes into and out of every part. And you, by doing your breathing where you're focused on the idea that it breathes in and out everywhere, you're helping to enhance that in a very soft, gentle, but very productive way. And so everything moving and circulating, no stagnation is extremely important. It's when things start to stagnate or get blocked up and that air exchange through everywhere isn't happening or it's being impeded, that is the beginning of illness and disease and all that stuff. Most illness and disease starts like that. There are other things that can cause it, but that's usually the beginning of it. And then when you start talking about things like a virus, well, it gets in there and it's the thing blocking those exchanges, right? And so you want to be able to keep those open and working. Is there anything anybody wanted to add to that? Or?
Yeah. In point of fact, and I'll let anybody else jump in too. But I just wanted to add that while I was doing the whole body breathing, when I was not doing other kinds of training, I was doing whole body breathing. But what I was specifically working on for body quality during my illness was a lot of wave, because what I found is it really calls out anywhere that you are stagnant. And it really kind of helps you move through it and feel the difference between not moving and moving, and really kind of get that. And so then when you then aren't doing any other kinds of training, when you're doing the whole body breathing, it's really getting everywhere, and you can feel it getting everywhere because you're already moving right everywhere. And so I found that those two things went really well together, and I just kind of naturally wanted to do a lot of wave stuff. Partly to fight the tendency to, when you're achy, it wants to seize up. And so just to loosen up and move those aches and get them out, the wave really helped to do that. But then I found it really critical to then doing the whole body breathing properly and getting that in everywhere also, because otherwise stuff gets stagnant, like they just said.
One of our videos is the wave to internal power. It's different than the essential keys, but it's if you want to have better wave dynamics both externally and then of course internally, that's the video for that. And I'm not trying to so much promote the video as much as you go, well, how do I do waving? It's a 2 or 3 videos set. I've got quite a bit of information about that, from, like I say, very overt to very not, very subtle. And how to use it in self-defense ways, and how to use it internally and all that. Anyways, and yeah, okay. Anybody else?
Well, when I work with people and introduce the concept of whole body breathing, and to try to help with the thought process involved or to visualize, I give the analogy of blowing up a balloon. And if you feel that your body is the balloon and you inhale, you feel the air coming into you and expanding. So you just think of it that way, and that sort of helps people to get the idea of the air going in and all the way through, and can help with, for example, relaxation and connection. And people said they found that a helpful analogy.
It's funny because for Jim, for practicing his Tai Chi set while this is going on, the one that I really told him to do was to work on the, so what I told Jim was that when you do a move, like let's say your first move and you're rising up and all that, you expand. When you come back in, then you contract. When you go out into your wild horse, into the full end of the movement, you should be very expanded everywhere. This is head to toe as well. You have to be dropped a little bit, so that you can also expand in the legs, the whole thing. And then when you come back in, the move where you're in the movement before you go into the next one, that's all contract again. And so it's expanding and contracting and working the whole thing, much like the Wudong energy ball when it's done properly as well. So, yeah, cool.
And just to throw something in there, and it's one of the greatest teachings with the Tai Chi, to constantly remember, to do that expanding. And I found, I fell subject to the body's instinct is to start conserving or to start preserving itself. And I actually felt myself closing down and going into that hibernation mode, or the sick mode or limp mode, or whatever it is.
I'm going to be talking about that a bit.
Okay, all right then.
What's going on. And then there is what you're talking about, which is the protecting issue like that. And so that's a thing, but then there's something else going on with that specifically with this disease and other ones that are more serious like this too.
Okay. No.
Anybody else? Okay. So 3D linear is a really good way to help to work on that zhongding and that alignment. And it really helps you to get that connection and centering and that kind of thing. And it's connecting them. I've got how to do that in my book and on the video for the book. We're talking about it as well and explaining it and showing it. But the book's where I'm really writing about it, so you can kind of get the idea of what, not kind of, it really is telling you how to do it in some detail. All right. Rooting and grounding, and when you do the rooting, you can really feel that you're able to get a much deeper breath throughout your whole body. And it helps your mind, the E, to actually expand bigger into the space as well as down into the root, because since you're feeling that and sensing that, your mind will expand to that. And it helps reduce the tension and pain. And I know, Jim, we did that with you the other day on the rooting, and really feel the difference in how it eased off some of the difficulty in the body and allowed you to fill up more with the air. I'll let you speak to that.
Yes, definitely felt that.
Cool. I'm not sure I got this other one off here. Okay.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
In the year 2020, right now, boosting immunity is on everyone's mind. Many scientific studies show that Tai Chi boosts immunity and helps prevent infection from viruses. On taichiforimmunity.com, I created a course that teaches the internal principles to make it work. This is the complete what, why, and how to turn your favorite Tai Chi form into an immune-boosting powerhouse. It also includes practices to help ease symptoms for the rare times when you do get sick. Tai Chi can help you live a longer and healthier life, and you don't need a special form to do it. The immune-boosting benefits of Tai Chi come from the correct expression and utilization of internal power. In Tai Chi for boosting the immune system, I teach you everything you need to know to get the benefits for yourself. Again, that course is available on taichiforimmunity.com. That's taichiforimmunity.com.
So I've got here, however, this is physical work and must be built. You can't, ideally, like for dropping a root, you're not going to wait until, oh, okay, I'm sick, I need rooting. Let's do rooting now. It's you better have worked on rooting and have rooting skill prior to trying to use it to really help yourself when you're sick like that. If you're trying to get it new, then I would say, I'm not saying you can't get it, I'm just saying it's going to be really tough. But if you've got some rooting skill, then you have it, you need it now with the situation, and you can then, use it like that. That's what you're going to want. Don't wait until it's too late.
Yeah, like that was not the first time that I tried embryonic breathing. That was not the first time I did wave. That I had worked those things quite a bit beforehand, which is why I was able to use them to assist in my recovery. Yeah. I didn't start that training like the day I got sick. I had already done it.
Yeah, and same with you. You were able to, with Jim, you were able to root because you're already done rooting training. And when I say that, I don't mean that there's an end to it, but you had done enough rooting training where you were able to do some rooting and not like, what is it? That kind of thing. That doesn't mean we can't help somebody who doesn't have these things to get some of that going on. But if you're like going to try to jump into all of it, it's really, it's already work to do. And now you're sick and you're trying to do this work. Do the training while you're well, and then you'll be well longer, ideally. And you will, you'll have it to use, long story short. All right, the heaven connection, and so you want to turn on your upward connection as well, and this will help to cause you to do the micro and macrocosmic orbits, especially when you have the upper or the heaven connection and the rooting connection down, the earth connection, and it helps you to better internally, physically open inside of your vessel and to circulate the energy because of the way that you're doing that. And the heaven and the earth energy combined, mixing, makes human being energy, and is what we're comprised of, from birth. The whole thing about, if I'm talking a Christian standpoint, that we're made from the clay or the dirt, and that God breathed the life into us. And so we're from both elements there, the heaven and the earth, mixed together in order to make a human being. And then most cosmologies have some version, most religions and things have a version of that that's still talking about is coming from those two things. All right. And that doesn't mean there aren't some that are very different, but there's a lot of where that's what the basis is. All right. So you don't want any double-weighted error or spherically centered is what you want to be, and you don't want any overextension. Because if you do that, and that's my emphasis for you today, is to not overextend. It's that you work from your center, and then as you expand in every direction equally. So even when you're dropping root, at first you're really working on that, and you're getting your mind in there, but then ideally, as you're doing the other things correctly, both being structurally correct and sung, and you're dropping root, that energy actually expands outward equally in every direction. And so you don't want to overextend in any one direction or overextend, right? And to expand, you want to move equally in all directions with two primary goals. The first one is bigger and bigger in terms of your work. And then also from the internal standpoint, being able to do it where that's going on, even though it's smaller and smaller. So that it's through and through in the whole thing. And then, like I said, bigger and bigger and smaller, every direction at the same time. And then the other one is at some point in development, this isn't the beginning or even intermediate, it's kind of more advanced, but it's dissolving the center. And so think about it that if you expand enough equally and you keep expanding, there's a point there where the center, it's not that it's dissolved, it's dissolving, and it's a continual process that way. Right? And this is really good for helping for your whole body system in the way that we've been talking about with everything else. When you overextend, it causes you to become weak in the position, like dribble, if you will, that there's not enough power there. If you try to lift a heavy weight and you got it close to your body, use your whole body to do it. Reach your arm all the way out, try to lift that same heavy weight, you can't even get it up off the floor, right? It causes gaps where there's just disconnection. So then you can't get like any power to what you're doing. It causes imbalance that causes more tensions and gaps, both structurally, with your mind, your connection to it, and with your breathing. Anywhere that there is imbalance, gaps, or blocks is where sickness, illness, and health problems are going to be able to get in. Any questions and answers or comments about any of that? Anything you think might be useful to share? Nope. Okay, well, you guys will still have the opportunity to weigh in here, so it's all good. All right. Make it a habit to regularly do all of this at the same time. All the things we're talking about here, all happening at the same time. This is extra important to do if you're ill. Of course, again, you ideally will have done the training ahead of time. Fortunately, Jim has. So did Matt. Do it as softly, truly softly, but also as correctly and as much as you can. The coronavirus and other illnesses can affect your energy system and make it feel shut off and start closing it down. Serious illnesses work their way into your system. They start at the field that's directly around the outer surface of your body, your Wei Qi field. From there, it works its way into the meridian system field, which is just right underneath the skin itself throughout the system. And it can go deeper, but that's where a lot of the body and the fascia right there underneath the skin. It works its way from there deeper into the yin qi, which is the nutritive qi. Think about it as between the surface and the bone, but a little bit closer to the bone. That's where the yin qi tends to be. And think about like in your side, your core, and that kind of thing. And then if it gets in that far and it's really trying to get you, then it works its way into your bone marrow, also known. And the more further in it is, the more serious and potentially deadly that it is.
Can you please repeat yourself? You froze for a moment. Well, as you were, just back up a couple sentences about.
By the way, we're going to buy a different cable for that. So
okay.
That we got, because it is, you notice he's just a cable, bang, we're back.
We missed the part about it going into the bone marrow.
Yeah, so you tell me where you missed me at. So the Wei Qi, Meridian Qi, Yin Qi, bone marrow, and that the worse it is, the more serious it is, the more chronic it is, the harsher the disease, the more it's working its way in, and the further in it gets, the worse it is for you. And if it's going to kill you, it's because it got all the way in there like that. Like when it's turning into pneumonia, at that point, it's really crossing into yin qi. And if it's where it's blocked it up and made it like solid, then it's got to the point where now it's into the bone marrow.
Okay.
Right? You got all that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, cool. No, thank you. The deeper in it gets, the worse it is. By doing proper Tai Chi practices and the 24/7 Qigong, you make it a lot harder for that illness to get in and stick in you like that. And it helps you circulate bad stuff out and good stuff in. And then part of the training here, and part of like dissolving the center, is to be able to take, when you get an illness like that, isolate it by feel inside your body and being able to relax and get that to dissolve out so that it goes back out of the layers and out. Like, so when you're doing our bone marrow washing method, you're learning how to take good stuff and process it from the outside of your field, having an earth energy, and bring it in and take it so that it goes all the way to bone marrow. But then you're going to be able to isolate like negative, bad things and then be able to process it out the same way. But that's a more advanced training just because of how deep in the system you're working and the way you're working and that kind of a thing. But it's what you're after with it in terms of at least one major thing that you're after with it in terms of the health stuff. So any questions, comments, anything on that?
Well, actually, Shifu, as far as some of us been doing bone marrow washing for a while. Where along the process or in progress does the sending the badness out from the marrow out?
Well, so the first thing you got to be able to do is, I know you guys can feel weight, everybody that's here on this call, right? For you guys that are regional organizers, you've had the training. I know you can feel Wei Qi and you can actually feel different things in Wei Qi, including knowing, like you can feel the difference between arthritis and a cold and various kinds of aches and pains and a whole bunch of other things, including cancers if you've had enough opportunity to feel it in the Wei Qi field. And you're used to being able to feel your own Wei Qi field as well with the energy ball, with the Wudong energy practices like that, and with the electrical energy practice in your Tai Chi, clear Tai Chi basic skills, right? And so your meridian Qi, you're doing some things that are working on that. When you're going through your form, ideally you can feel the energy circulation through the meridian Qi in the body, and if not, there's a body of work there, and that does tie in back into the electrical energy again, because that'll take you from Wei Qi to being able to feel it at the meridian Qi level. Your Yin Qi is the one that I found that then anytime you're doing like whole body breathing and you're feeling stuff inside, but it's not at bone marrow level, but you're actually able to feel and distinguish things and to understand and to isolate and to process and all of that. But you have to be able to get where you're good at that. And then with your bone marrow washing, it's not just that you're breathing through and getting it to wave through your bone marrow, but then that you can start really feeling your bone marrow. And when we're doing the push hands, being able to feel somebody else and feel their Wei Qi, their meridian Qi, their Yin Qi, the nutritive Qi, and the bone marrow, and actually be able to get inside their bone marrow and being able to make adjustments to all that, and then also being able to use it from like a push hands towards martial kind of a practice. And then as you get better and better and better at doing that, it's also being able to feel each one individually, being able to feel them all together, being able to manipulate that energy in yourself in different kinds of ways, and then in the other person. And now, if you've got that going on, we're starting to get to the point where you would be able to do what you're asking about. But it takes, that's why I said it's advanced, because it takes all of that to really be able to do that. And the most acupuncturists, if they're studied and really on their game, they're familiar with these, but the way that I'm talking to you about working with it, ask the average acupuncturist, he'd be like, ooh, that's advanced. That's like the high level stuff. So, and I'm not telling you that like it's off limits to you. I'm telling you that like if somebody came in first day, didn't know anything, he'd go, okay, I want to be able to move my energy between the 4 layers. Okay, I hope you got a couple years, because we're going to have to teach you a whole lot and get you doing things in order to do that. And so it's very doable, but it also is not a beginner thing. You're going to have the kind of training I'm talking about.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I will just add that the physical symptoms that I found I had with the coronavirus match perfectly the process, the energetic process that Sifu was just describing. Is the aches were the aches associated with it were trying to work their way in, like they went to a muscular level and then to like a joint level, and like they were really trying to work their way in. And the work that I had to do was to loosen that back up and not let tension set in, because as those aches set in and as they work their way deeper, that tension locks in as kind of a natural, and then it gives that more purchase. It gives, everything like more tug, and so it gets worse and worse and worse. And so, the natural response being to tense up, what the work really is to loosen it back up in order to get it back out.
When you tense up and you withdraw in, you're taking the thing that's going in there and you're pulling it in and you're grabbing a hold of it and holding on to it.
That's right.
Which can be deadly. Okay, and so by dissolving center, you're learning you're not so much letting go of your stuff. It's not that. It's that you're releasing so that you're soft and pliable. Your energy's still like magnetized to you, but you're actually working on being able to distinguish that, and then you're not holding on to that bad illness and sickness, that kind of a thing, and you're getting that to process back out and being open enough in the right kind of ways. I'm trying to put good words to this for you, so that it goes out. So dissolving the center would be if you're at a place where you've got most of what I described there going on, or ideally all of it, but even a fair amount of it, dissolving the center would be the next thing that you'd want to be taking a look at, that we've got on, put it on video, and I've done workshops on it. It's time to start looking at that. Don't try to look at that so much when you're sick. Then you just need to be as relaxed and aligned and whole body breathing in the opening and closing, because that's going to help you to work that so that you can try to get that to go out and not seize you in the center like that.
Well, and so the respiratory symptoms were the same. They start kind of surface level, but as they progress and they get worse, they work their way in more and they seize up more, and you start losing deeper lung function as that locks up. And then the work that you have to do is to unlock that and open it back up and release and expel those blocks, and it's a very physical sort of thing in one sense, but it's all operating in that, pulling in, locking up kind of energetic way that Sifu was describing. It very much like all of it really mimics that. And so I guess that was my experience of it. And my question to you is, like, Jim and I have talked a lot from our experience about coronavirus, but what I would ask the other folks on the call is, not just for coronavirus, but other things that you've seen that are sort of severe like that, do you find that they also tend to imitate that in some way, where the symptomology kind of matches up with the energetic process that we're describing here? Anyone?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I had the flu that could kill you, or maybe that was last year. I don't know, but it was something where I felt it moving from the muscles inward.
Yeah, moving inward. Yeah.
And I found myself doing almost exactly what Matt did, which was like, at some point, it was like only so much consciousness I had, and I was directing all of it to breathing and how far was the breath going in me.
And full.
And full. And it took me a little bit to get over that, and then a little while to get stronger again. I would say on something earlier when we were talking about with the working the root with this, that there's also a limit of your depth that you want to go to, so connect to
You're just trying to get
when
it
you're sick.
and past the body, so that your whole body,
Right.
Because your mind is further than that, your mind will track. When you drop root, your E will go that way also. And so if your E is shorter in your body, the energy is not going to want to go into the whole body. It's only going to want to go where your mind is. So if your mind has really come in.
Anyway, what I was going to say is, there's a warning if you can, root down really deeply when you're sick.
Yeah, no, it's
root down super deeply.
So that your whole body gets covered.
Yeah.
Are we good? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would say if you have emotional things going on.
Yes. You're on mute there.
Yeah, sorry. My I have to go to work alarm went off right as I started speaking. But I would say the same thing. It's probably true if you've got emotional things going on or hard things in life that, they start as an external thing, and then you end up dwelling on them in your mind, and then they kind of push into your emotions, and then you see physical effects because of that, and not processing through the hurt or whatever you're dealing with can have big consequences in your physical body and your overall health. And so I would say it probably works the same way with most things.
I also found, like you mentioned in the very beginning, that before I was physically aware that I was getting sick, yes, the weight she field, I felt something was going on with my body. And then, as you said, it progressed, and then I started showing signs of the racking cough, and as it worked deeper and deeper, it got to the point where when I got hit with the fever and the shakes and all of that, it was down deep, within the body. So, but I do think that as practitioners with the Tai Chi, I think we're more conscious, and we need to pay more attention to our own bodies when something starts to try to address it or to look at it.
At least once a day, usually several times, multiple times throughout the day. Not where I'm doing this all the time and even put any real length of time to it, but I just will do something where I'm feeling that, and okay, that's what it feels like. If I do that and it feels funky, I'm like, wait a minute, and then I'll stand and start going through the process. If it continues to feel funky, so I catch things that are starting to come on very, very, very early. And I've been able to spend a lot of times where a lot of people around me have gotten ill, and I don't get it. And then if somebody asks me, I'm like, oh, I got it. And they're like, what? You look fine. You're talking fine. You're not having any of those symptoms. It's like, well, my version of having it was like what you got in the first, hour or two, the first day before it really kind of kicked on. It's just that I caught it so early that way that I immediately took that action, and it didn't continue to progress into the rest of what you experienced. And that doesn't mean I don't get sick from time to time, but it is a lot less than like most people. The other people that I interact with regularly, something will come through and they'll have it be down with it, and I have to pace myself and be careful and really do my practices. But I don't get sick the vast majority of the time. I don't get sick like the other folks.
Well, and I would say, sorry.
Go ahead.
I gotta bounce. Well, yeah, I gotta just say, I'll tell you before I go, because just to jump on what Steve was saying, I think one of the greatest gifts of Tai Chi is Ting. We always say Ting is the thing, and I think one of the things that's kept me more and more healthy, other than just practicing Tai Chi, is just knowing when I need sleep, when I need water, when I need food, and just being able to listen to my body tell me what it needs in that moment, instead of being severely dehydrated or severely lack of sleep and having no idea what's going on. It's like, no, I need to rest, I need food, I need these things, this general maintenance. And Tai Chi gives us that gift. I mean, Ting is the thing, and as we increase our awareness of our body, like Steve was saying, you can catch things much earlier, which is usually the better way to deal with things. And anyway, I love you guys. I gotta go to work.
Yep.
Hey, man.
Anybody else want to add anything else in today? All right, so and now a word from our sponsor. So if you want to know more about these kind of things and the specific practices and what you really need to essentially and ideally you're doing with this, then that would be the Essential Keys to Internal Power at internalpowerkeys.com. And if you want to know more about how to manage being able to do this throughout a day where really it's in the background and you don't feel like you're, oh man, I feel like I'm having to practice all the time and all that, but it's just something that you're doing. It flows naturally through your day. It's fairly easy to do and just becomes part of how you naturally live life. And if you don't look strange because you're not doing things where people would see, a lot of it's internally being done. That would be the clear 24/7 Qigong. And so if you have any questions, please put them in the comments where you've heard this or seen this, and or send us email. And in one of the local areas, obviously you can visit any of our regional organizers here or go and make arrangements to take some lessons from them. And get this going on even better. We've got it online as well. And thanks for watching. Thanks for participating, guys. Great seeing you all again today, and look forward to talking to you throughout the next week here, and more next time.
Thank you, Sifu.
You will.
Thank you, Sifu. Excellent discussion.
Thanks. After we turn
Thanks,
off,
everybody.
if any of you want to communicate any further, just stay on once we turn off the thing here, and then we'll talk.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
For those of you who are interested in internal power and want a reliable place to start, and for anyone who wants to experience internal power for themselves, go to internalpowerguide.com. I built a crash course in hands-on internal power. The Practical Guide to Internal Power is a work at your own pace online program. It is the course I use to get students from 0 to 60 as quickly as possible, and it is totally free. So sign up at internalpowerguide.com now and get started right away. That's internalpowerguide.com.